There are movie trailers that drop out of nowhere, and then there are trailers that hit you like a freight train carrying 25 years of Hollywood friendship, chemistry, and pure cinematic history. When I pressed play on the first teaser for The Rip, I felt something I haven't felt in a long time, this sharp sense of finally, it's happening. And stay with me here, because the deeper you go into this trailer, the more obvious it becomes that we're watching the rebirth of one of Hollywood's greatest duos. And hey, while you're here, drop a comment with your favorite Damon Affleck moment. I bet this film will top it. For decades, Ben Affleck and Matt Damon have been inseparable forces in the industry, two kids from Boston who grew up chasing the same dream and somehow managed to change Hollywood together. They won an Oscar together. They acted together. They wrote together. They built careers that evolved in totally different directions, and yet, every few years, they find their way back to each other like gravity. But here's the wild part. After all this time, after all these collaborations, all the dramas, comedies, historical films, and character pieces, they never did a true, hard-edged crime thriller together. Until now. The Rip looks like the moment fans have been waiting for. It places both actors right in the heart of a gritty, escalating, morally twisted crime story, exactly the kind of playground where they both shine individually. Damon has the intensity, the quiet calculation, the I might snap at any second energy he showed in The Departed. Affleck has the brooding, physical presence, the street-level authenticity that made The Town one of the greatest modern crime films. Put them together, you get cinematic dynamite. The story centers on two Miami cops, Dane Dumas and J.D. Byrne, whose partnership fractures when they stumble into a fortune that could change their lives or destroy them completely. Trust evaporates. Loyalties shake. The entire trailer is soaked in paranoia and danger. And yes, there are gunfights, brawls, car chases, moral dilemmas, and those quiet, explosive moments where a single look can say more than a monologue. That's Damon and Affleck's territory. That's their home. Watching Damon in this trailer, I immediately felt flashes of Jason Bourne, but darker, calmer, more unpredictable. He plays Dumas with this controlled friendliness that feels like a mask, like there's a storm under his skin that he's choosing not to unleash. Damon does that better than almost anyone. He can go from sympathetic everyman to dangerous maniac in half a second, and The Rip uses that tension perfectly. Affleck, meanwhile, looks like he's tapping into the shadows that made Gone Baby Gone and The Town so unforgettable. His character, Byrne, is tense, suspicious, coiled like a spring. You can feel the betrayal building in his eyes. There's a moment in the trailer, just a second, where Affleck looks at Damon as if he's trying to figure out whether he's talking to a friend or a snake. That's when the movie hooked me. And honestly, that's exactly what crime thrillers need. Characters who might turn on each other, alliances that feel temporary, and danger leaking out of every frame. But the real thrill here, the thing that makes The Rip genuinely exciting, is the energy between these two actors. Their real-life friendship bleeds through the screen. They understand how the other moves, breathes, reacts. That kind of chemistry can't be faked. It took decades of making movies, winning Oscars, fighting through Hollywood chaos, and carving their own paths, for them to finally collide in a film like this. The trailer is built on tension. You feel it rising with every cut. Gunshots echo through neon-lit alleyways. Tires screech on wet asphalt. Miami heat bleeds into sweaty moral panic. And through it all, Damon and Affleck orbit each other, friends, partners, rivals, enemies, maybe all at once. This is the kind of movie where everyone might be dangerous, where the line between cop and criminal is so thin you could slice it with a razor. And that's why The Rip works so well as a concept. It's not just a thriller, it's a playground for two actors who know how to twist tension into something electric. Affleck and Damon have always worked best when their characters are complicated, broken, torn between loyalty and self-preservation. Think of Good Will Hunting, where the emotional conflict was the engine. Think of The Last Duel, where conflicting truths shattered the narrative. Think of Air, where subtle disagreements became entire dramatic arcs. Now imagine that, but with guns, corruption, betrayal, and the threat of death around every corner. The trailer also hints at something else, a shifting power dynamic. This might be the first time we see Affleck and Damon directly oppose each other in a way that isn't comedic or philosophical, but survival-driven. Byrne looks like he's losing patience. Dumas looks like he's hiding something big. And the movie looks like it's going to force them into a collision course that could only end one way badly. And that's exactly why this works. Hollywood crime thrillers thrive on tension, and this one has the biggest possible source of it. Two lifelong friends forced to go toe-to-toe in a dirty, dangerous, high-stakes world where trust is a luxury no one can afford. By the end of the trailer, I was hooked and honestly, a little annoyed this film isn't out yet. I want to see these two tear each other apart on screen. I want the betrayals, the gunfights, the moral breakdowns, the I trusted you moments. I want to see Damon and Affleck sink as deep into this genre as they possibly can. Because after all this time, after all the movies, all the awards, all the collaborations, this finally feels like the movie they were destined to make. And I can't wait. Stick with me for the next breakdown. There's so much more coming from Screen Radar, and trust me, you won't want to miss it.